All right, ladies and gentle humans, we've got a little 3-game impact video to go through, and it is round 12, 13, and 14. Some of the hardest rounds to make sure that you cover both correctly, all three, obviously with round 12 with the Knights players being a little bit more relevant than that of the Dragons, that's for sure. So yeah, you might be lucky to have one Dragon in your side compared to this one here. So yeah, an important 3 weeks to come. And obviously past round 13 and 14 as well, a lot of these guys that are very relevant coming into these few rounds become a little less relevant come rounds 16, 17, 19, and 20. So make sure you're aware of that, and I'll give you a few options where that might be the case. And it doesn't work that way with the Tigers, obviously, because they only have that one bye throughout that entire period, 13 all the way through to round 20, with they're missing round 13 there. Over the next few rounds, though, for them that they do play, it is the Cowboys away, the Dragons away, the Titans, and then the Raiders as well. So still a really strong club to target, but how many of those main guys are you going to be wanting in your side? Like, it's Isaiah Papali'i at this stage, potentially, along with Galvin. You got Jaden Sullivan has probably got 2 more. He's got 2 more rounds to go until he loses his spot to Aiden Caesar. So really, there's only a couple of guys that you might want to target in this side. And also an update, guys, look like Samuel Afenu, just severe cramps, which was his problem. That's why he ended up coming off. So yeah, he should be fine going forward, which is nice for owners of him and holders. But yeah, Tigers, only a couple of real players you want to be looking at. If we see Twali in the 13 going forward, then I think he should be able to score well also. But we'll have to find out. I think probably more post round 13 in that round 14 when they'll get a couple of guys back there for sure. So that's the Tigers. On the Titans side, once they get through their round 13 bye, they become a lot more relevant there with playing 14, playing 16, missing 17, but playing 19 and 20 as well for the Titans there. So have a look at potentially a couple of these guys. Obviously, we've got a few to come back in Jaden, a lot to come back, Campbell, but obviously, Tanner Boyd and these guys, they'll eventually be back sort of in this mid-tier time. With Jolliffe gone, that leaves another big space for a middle forward. With Mo Fodawaker, a chance of playing Origin as well. There's going to be some guys that need to step up, and how many of them are exactly relevant? And in the outside backs, who do you want to be targeting from the Titans? I don't think there's many at this stage. So 2 a little bit less relevant teams, especially with all the injuries that are coming through at the moment that aren't long enough for guys to get an extended role in that certain position, and with those weeks available. For the Dolphins, still a super relevant side. Obviously, you've got potential for Lemuelu to be a really important piece in your side as well at a cheaper price point. Looked great on the weekend, was moving really freely, but he has also had 2 knee injuries this year. Aiken looking really good on that side. You've got some holds in Isaiah Katoa's, Cody Nikarima if you're in that realm there. Phil Fuller, you can decide what to do. Max Plath obviously as well. I don't think Maxi would be a buy this week, especially with the higher break even as well, and not sure on minutes available, but still a very relevant side. And if anything pops up in that Dolphin side, definitely look to purchase them. But they do miss round 14, obviously, but the next couple of weeks with the Warriors and the Raiders should be fairly solid for those outside backs, those edge forwards in Lem, Aitken to get some attacking stats for sure. Storm, they have the round 13 and 19 bye. So again, once you can get through this round 13, they play 14, 16, 17, 3 very important matchups there, having a 5-game stretch in a row before they miss round 19 there as well, and they play the rest of the year. So 1 bye from round 14 to round 27 shows that the Storm are a very interesting team to look at. And with the news of Munster likely to be down for 8 to 10 weeks there, Tyron Wishart, who I've spoken about the last couple of weeks, and every time he plays 7, he's been doing really well. He becomes a little bit more relevant even when Jerome Hughes does return. So yeah, that's a fun one to look at. He obviously, Munster kicks a little less in general play than what Hughes does, but we know that Wishart is good enough player to continue scoring well. So a few people might pick him up, but he's in that awkward half position, obviously, that halves and wing fullbacks at the moment seem, there's a lot of players that are doing good jobs in that space there. But the Storm play Eagles and the Knights in their next 2 games in and around that bye. Sharkies, they've got a tougher run, but they are also a good team at the moment. So there's that, in there. It shouldn't matter too much, I don't think, this draw. Panthers aren't playing incredibly well, so I'm probably likely to tip the Sharkies, and we know that they can continue to do good things. in terms of purchases from the Sharks, there's not really many. Most of them have gone and played that really, really well already, that their prices have gone right up and their value has been sort of shot out of a cannon. That's for sure. So yeah, not a lot to purchase, a few to hold, obviously there, but they play the next 4 games in a row before missing round 16 and also round 20, just like a couple other teams in the Eels and also the Dragons in that one there. So Sharkies more of a holding team at the moment rather than a purchasing, especially when we will find out after round 12, guys, about all the origin selections there with Cam McInnes and these guys in line for a potential selection in that 14 jersey. For the Panthers, again, they're in the same situation where they get all the way through to 16, but they miss 19 as well. So the 2 of the 3 big buys, they do miss out on. But Sharkies into Dragons into Eagles for them. Should be a really fun matchup this week. And then a couple of easier ones for them. Obviously, Dragons a bit easier than that of the Eagles at this point. Again, probably the only potential purchase could be like an Isaac Tungo if you think that he's not going to make Origin, which, there's a chance that he does now that Bradman Best is going to be out of that first one as well. So we'll have to wait and see how that one looks there as to who is likely to be getting that center spot at the moment. But outside of that, with the Panthers, if you already bought Cole last week, you're holding on. And if you got Isaiah, I think you hold him through the entire bye period. And a few of the other guys there. Taylor May, I think, is likely going to be a sell there as well. So yeah, that's the Panthers at the moment. Need to kind of bounce back a little bit and show a better, show themselves off a little bit better than what they had the last few weeks. Rabbitohs, they've got the Eels, who aren't playing great at the moment, into the bye, and then Titans following that. So yeah, a couple of good games in and around that bye there. They missed 13, they missed 17 as well. So the same situation as the Titans there. Again, purchases in this squad, if you think that Latrell isn't actually going to play Origin, which, look, it's getting more and more likely now that Bradman Best is out as well, then you could definitely go for him. We know he can score really, really well, and there are a couple of nice matchups for him. Outside of that, it's kind of a few plotters like Davin Wale with the shoulder complaint there. And then you've got guys like Silva Havili, we've got Tallis Duncan, both doing okay. Jai Arrow, but might make Origin as well. Damien Cook is a potential one at hooker. So a lot of potential without, and then Cody Walker scored well last week. He could definitely do that again. A lot of kind of potential good scorers. A few guys that did well last week, a few guys that didn't so much. So a very interesting team that, they've already had one bye done and they've got a couple to go. But in 2 pretty important weeks, round 13 and round 17. So they're a fairly irrelevant team right now, in my opinion. Doggies, they've got Dragons into Knights into Eels. So 3 fairly favourable matchups and then into their bye in round 15. So if you own any of those guys, I think you're in a really, really good spot. Max King probably is a main potential purchase in the Dogs this week. And Carraz, I think, is a really good one as well. Outside of that, they're all holds. The Salmons, Hughes, Curran, a bit more on the hold side. We'll have to see what happens if Salmon is named this week and if Kikau has got any further injury from his ankle issue that the complaint that he ended up having there. So have a look at all that. Otherwise, pretty simple for the Doggies. A nice run there. For the Eels, they've got the next 4 games before a bye, as I said, 16 and 20. And it is against the Bunnies, the Sharkies, and the Dogs there before Roosters in round 15. So all, solid enough matchups. They might have a tough one against the Sharkies, but 2 closer ones with Bunnies and the Dogs there. But as you saw last game, guys like Blaze Talangi and Dylan Brown, 2 really important cogs in their attack, they still end up scoring fairly well, which, shows that they only need a couple of plays, or they're trying to do a lot of things to get the job done for their side. But Eels, not a lot. You're holding on to Matto. You're not going to be climbing into like a Bryce Cartwright anytime soon, I don't think, unless it looks like he's going to get 80 minutes and he finds a little bit more form. But that's that. Raiders, you're looking at the Roosters and the Dolphins before their bye in round 14, and then they missed 19 as well. So they've got the same schedule as the Roosters, who we'll speak about soon, with those 2 being missed there. But round 13, they play against the Dolphins, which will be a fun one. Roosters this week, as I said, could be a little bit of a tougher one, but then come back from the bye and it's Cowboys, Tigers before Storm and Knights. So a pretty overall good schedule for them. And then, if you get through that round 14, you either sell them then, or you can wait until round 19 and make that decision there to sell their Raiders guys who have already had a bye so far. Dragons coming off their bye. They now have Dogs into Panthers, Tigers. So a couple of easier ones into a tougher one there against the Panthers. Now they've got one out of the way. They still have 2 to come in 16 and 20. So yeah, it doesn't get too much easier on the buyers front from then. A lot of time you can get a team, get them through their bye, and then you can select a player or two from that team just for that reason, that they've got a clean run. And that's exactly what it's going to be like from really the Tigers. The Titans there in that round 14 are going to be really cool to have a look at. You've got, teams like the Storm and the it's not the Panthers, the Storm, and who else we got there? Round 13, Raiders could be a good one after 14. Then you've got teams like the Eagles are a good one to little target there, 13 to 17 buyers. These kind of squads there could be fun to look at for sure. But yeah, we'll get to them in a second. But yeah, Dragons doesn't really help them out too much. Not really many guys you look to target. You've got a few that might be making Origin or looking likely a chance in Jaden Sewer, Zach Lomax. Ben Hunt's going to be there. So yeah, no real clear standouts in that pack that aren't sort of at higher value already in the JDBs, the Tom Eisenhuis, these types of players. For the Knights, they have the bye this week into the Dogs, Storm, Panthers. So before a bye for them. So it gets a little bit less favourable, and I don't think you can purchase anyone except for Armstrong in that round 13, Bulldogs clash there. So get through this bye, and we'll talk about them a little bit more next week. But hold on to pretty much every one of your Knights that you have that would be relevant for sure. Broncos, Reece Walsh, probably the interesting one. Hopefully he's fine to go. If he's not fine to go this week, I think you sell him because he'll miss a few too many, unfortunately, with Origin. But everyone else in your Broncos, you probably hold on for that clash against the Titans this week. Guys like Brendan Piakura could definitely come out and score another try if they set him up in the right spacing there. They come back from their bye in round 13. They play Sharks and Rabbitohs. So yeah, hit and miss, a good one, bad one in those two before they're missing 16 as well. So there's that to look at. For the Eagles, you've got Storm in this upcoming one, and then they get the bye and then to Panthers. So still 2 really tough clashes. We saw here that Blaze Talangi, Dylan Brown was still able to score well against the Storm. So expect, decent enough scores there from what we saw last week. A lot of the work was going through the outside backs in Kohler, in Garrick, which is very, very helpful for their scoring. So, potentially could do that again. If that's the style of play they want to go for, then that could be good for those two. I don't think you should be purchasing them this week. I think you wait if you're good to go in round 14 against the Panthers and think that they can get good base stats, then it could just be the one to go for before Dragons and the Bunnies there. Warriors, you've got them against the Dolphins in this week, into the bye, into Cowboys away. So a little bit slightly easier opponents for them. And then you're on and off between Storm, Broncos, Titans, and Dogs before that. If there's anyone that you're interested in after round 13, that round 14 clash is going to be the one to look at, but most of them are holds, and hopefully Tohu Harris is back in this week after his broken finger. Roosters, so Roosters, Cowboys, all these 5 teams to finish: Broncos, Eagles, Warriors, Roosters, Cowboys, still have 3 buys remaining, and we've got 16 rounds to go. So 3 out of the next 16, they're going to be missing, and it could be even more if they're Origin players. So that's just something to note with those 5 teams. And if you've got players from there, there'll be weeks there where you're missing out, unfortunately, on players for your squad. So that's that. Keep that in mind. But yeah, they come up against those sides. So yeah, good and bad either side of it. Roosters, they've got a couple of good games there. Raiders away into Cowboys at home before their round 14 bye. And then it's a pretty nice run for them. Eels, Bulldogs, Tigers, and Dragons. If you've got attacking players from the Roosters team here, there's plenty of blue on that screen. I'd probably change the Eels to blue as well, but I think Moses will be back by that point, and it'll be a bit of a harder clash. Bulldogs I'd change as well. But yeah, a really, really strong team to target for attacking style players over the next month to 6 weeks of football for them after a really tough start with really hard opponents. And the last one there is Cowboys. So they've got Tigers into Roosters away, into Warriors at home, and Raiders before their first bye in round 16. So again, once you get to round 16 there, they have 3 buys from round 16 all the way through to 27, which is 3 in 12, 25% of their games remaining from that point will be buys. So got 4 games until that, and I think with certain guys you can make different decisions around what you want to do with them. But until that point, they've still got a little, good game this week. Roosters in round 13 will be a hard one, but hopefully it's a bit more of an attacking style of game. And then Warriors Raiders from there. So I think we'll leave it at that for the impact on the next three rounds, guys. The role of this video and the goal of it is to make sure that you're prepping correctly for all of the situations that are going to rise in round 13, 14, 16, 17, standalone buys even. And yeah, you can go from there. From a head-to-head perspective, it's obviously based on a few things. Do you rest your feet in round 13, 16, 19? Check your head-to-head round settings and see if you're actually playing during those rounds like I've shown in previous videos. And if you are, then you do have to play it a little bit more like an overall team does, getting somewhat a decent squad on the park. Also trying to look at what kind of team your opponent has in that week. In round 14 even, maybe you've got the bye rounds off, but round 14 is when you're playing and you want to look at who your opponent is going to be for round 14 and see where they're at and where they're positioned in terms of playing numbers. They could be, they could be at 15, they could be at 20, something like that. And you just got to work out if you think that they're going to be good enough for that week to beat you or not, and you can make your decisions from there. So yeah, a couple of things to think of with head-to-head. Obviously, if there's an ability for you to potentially save trades in those weeks, that'll at least give you sort of 4 or 5 plus the 8 come round 20 that you can use to set up your team well for a few weeks, and then have at least a trade or two a week to win your matchups or to cover injuries to big players and things like that. So yeah, not too crazy of an increased schedule on the head-to-head side of things. But yeah, that's where we're at from this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the team list video. I'll have it out hopefully around 6 o'clock or just before. See you guys.